Woman Raw.
Beautiful Hollywood. Woman Raw. Welcome. My name is Melanie Camp. This is a Beautiful Hollywood special. Woman Raw, sharing stories of women in business and how they get it done. This is about inspiring you to be bold, see your potential, and get doing. Create Hospitality founder and CEO Lauren Koeppe is guest on the show today. Lauren has built a name for herself in the hospitality industry, working at world-class restaurants including The Standard on the New York City High Line, Hakkasan in the Fontainebleau Miami Beach, Hinoki the Bird here in Los Angeles. She's worked with Celebrity Chefs Antonia Lofaso, who has the restaurant Scopa in Venice, also Australian chef Curtis Stone. Her latest venture includes 2 restaurants, the Pier House and Cartolina, down by the Venice Pier. We are going to talk about staying sane when you have that much going on, and also we're going to delve deep because Lauren didn't start out with a plan to work in the hospitality industry. She grew up in the Palisades in Los Angeles and spent her entire childhood dancing. Lauren assumed she'd be a dancer, going so far as to earn a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the University of Colorado Boulder, majoring in modern dance, but Plan A didn't turn out to be what she expected. We're going to take a look at what it means to pivot a dream and how being brave enough to change direction often leads to discovering your best life. Lauren Koeppe, welcome to Beautiful Hollywood.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Man, whew, what a life already.
It's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning. Well,
Yeah.
I want to start way back. I want to begin at the beginning.
Okay.
I want you to talk us through when you realized you didn't want a dance career and how it felt changing direction.
Yeah. Dance for me was almost like a way of life, and it was something that kept me very focused in my childhood and through high school and even through college. I was very passionate about the creative part of it, but when it came down to being competitive, that was not what I enjoyed about it. There are certain dancers that are all about the competition and auditionings, and that's what drives them, and for me it was not. It was about the art form. So when I realized that making a career out of this, you had to really get competitive and you had to go audition, it drew the passion away from just it in general.
Yeah.
So I was really ready to figure out how I could still do something artistic and creative without it being competitive.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And I loved performing, and I loved working with my team to, or my group, the core group people I was working with, whether it was, in ballet or in modern dance or in school, and getting together, at night and dancing for 4 or 5 hours in rehearsals and being together and, creating something and then getting to perform. I mean, that was so special. And, I miss that very much. But to get to that place professionally, it's just a very competitive place. And that just was not in me at that time. So
I kind of love that you talk about choreographing a team and working late together, and it kind of sounds like the hospitality industry.
It's very similar. And I think that dedication and hard work, especially about working collectively, it's the same thing whether it's in dance or in hospitality. If you learn how to be work with a group and know how to take everybody's strength, then you will create something beautiful together. So it's just like when you're in a corps of the ballet, everybody has to dance together. They have to be on the same beat, have to have their, the extensions the same height. And it's not about, just a single person dancing on their own, but about it's so beautiful because people are doing everything in sync. And so that's something that I took from dance into working, in the hospitality business.
Oh, that's amazing. Who would have thought there was actually such a legitimate parallel to hospitality and dance? That's really cool.
And I think the dedication aspect too, because, you go in every day, you take class to work on yourself, to get better, to create improvements. Then you go to rehearsals to get better together. And then, to create a better product in the end with, which is your final piece. So it's the same, and I think in every industry. So I think people that have been dancers or had that art form in their past, I think they have that mindset of what it takes of being dedicated, to work together to create something beautiful in the end.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I mean, I think the thing is when someone sets out in life to do a specific thing, and whether it's something that they change straight out of school or 20 years into a career, when they're ready to make a transition, I think so many people hold back because they think, have I just wasted all my life before this moment doing something that I'm not going to be doing moving forward? Mm-hmm. But we bring so much. Sometimes we don't realize until we move into the next phase how much we bring from the last phase to the new phase. I think no matter what we do. So I really do like that because I wouldn't have thought there was a parallel between dance and hospitality.
Yeah.
But so when you were transitioning, when you were a kid, going, yay, I'm going to be a dancer. And then like, no, I freaking hate it. I'm not going to be a dancer anymore. Was it hard? Was there like feelings?
I don't think there was really ever that like, oh, I hate it. I think it would just like slowly like faded out. It's like, you know, when colors change on a stage and all the lights, let's say, are blue tone and all of a sudden they're red, like you don't notice the transition. It just happens, right? It's a slow build and change. You know, that was a huge part of my childhood up until I was about 21, basically. And then, you know, slowly this thing came over and I was interested in other things and exploring business, and almost like my mind had developed and changed, and I was seeing things that I wanted to explore more. So it was like a slow transition, and I never felt like I hated it. I always was taking class and always was involved, whether it was, you know, doing things that are in fitness or dance or in the arts, but it just became less of my main focus and more of a hobby.
Yeah, right. Okay,
So
it wasn't too painful then.
No, it was okay.
Oh, that's good.
I made peace with it. I was okay with it.
Oh, you made peace. Yeah. Because it happened slowly? Was it that you made peace because it sort of happened slowly? I'm just wondering.
I just found myself like, I don't want to go to an audition. I just didn't want to. I didn't like how I felt after auditions. So I was like, I don't want to do that, but I'm going to keep taking class and do it because taking class is super fun.
Yeah.
And I love going to class and getting the chance to dance and express myself. But then for my work, for my profession, you know, I can tap into something else that's stimulating me in a different way.
What led you to hospitality?
In college, I just wanted to make some extra cash, and I had a lot of friends who worked in restaurants. It seemed like the cool thing to do in Boulder. So I walked into a restaurant one day and was like, hey, I have no experience, but I'm a hard worker and I would love to do whatever you have available. And so do any position you have available. And he said, okay. He's like, I'll take a chance on you. You seem like you have a good head on your shoulders. And so he's like, why don't you come be a host and kind of, you can get, you know, check out this business. And so then it went from being a host to being, you know, like a back server and a runner, to helping them in the kitchen kind of expedite food, and then being a server. And then, you know, I had multiple jobs from there, and it went from there, but I really got to learn all the different positions of the business, and I just loved it. You know, it was like putting on a show every night, because you prepare the books and make sure that everything's ready for everybody to be seated. And it's almost like you're choreographing everything. Then, you know, the guests start to come in and you got to facilitate the evening for them. And, you know, every night's different. So it really was like putting on a show every night for the guests. That's why I loved it so much.
When did you decide that you were going to go and do your Masters of Food Studies and Food Management in New York? Was that before you'd even graduated from university in Colorado?
It was after. So after I graduated from CU Boulder, I came back to LA for 2 years and, you know, was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Worked in a few restaurants and was just kind of like still figuring out. That was that real transition time. I was still taking class in Hollywood and dancing and still trying to figure it out. And I had a few restaurant jobs in LA, not in management yet, but just as, you know, a server, and still, like I said, just trying to make extra money and figure it out. But then I went and got a job at Lululemon. And Lululemon is, at the time, Beverly Hills was the only U.S. location. So they had put a lot of time into working with their team in development, especially because we were the brand ambassadors for the company at the time, because, you know, we were the only U.S. location, and we were really there to create something for their brand. So they spent a lot of time doing vision boards and development and leadership training and having us read books on how to be successful. And they really put a lot of time back into their team.
Right. And so, was this everyone who was working at Lululemon?
Everybody
it wasn't
was
just upper management or management.
No,
it was everyone.
They really are about creating culture in their store and in the locations. They really believe in developing their team, because for a lot of people, maybe folding stretchy pants is not the be all end all. But if they can help you progress and learn more about who you want to be and what your goals are, then they feel like they've given back. So they really put a lot of time into developing their team. We were doing a leadership program and doing vision boards one day. We have to create, 1 year, 5 year, and 10-year goals in your career, in your personal life, and in your health and wellness. And, I was writing down, where do I want to be in 10 years? What does that look like for me? And I said, I want to be, consulting with chefs and having a company that, is working in restaurants. And it was still very vague when I was writing this kind of vision and goal. But then you had to create steps to work backwards. So then your 5-year goal is, okay, so what are you doing in 5 years? And it's like I'm managing and working in great hotels and restaurants. And what's your 1-year goal? So I'm continuing my education in a program that leads me closer to being in hospitality management. I'm like, okay, well then. So now I have these like this set of ladders basically of where I want to be, and how am I going to get there? Okay, so I got to start applying for schools. But do I want to apply to a more of a culinary school like Cornell, or do I want to go to a hotel management school, or what interests me? So NYU happened to have a program that was pretty much a hybrid between food and beverage studies and also in hospitality. So it really talked about the food as an industry, and there's a lot of theory and reading and writing and history, and then also talked about the hospitality aspect of it as well. So the practical business sense of it. So I looked up the curriculum and I was like, I think this is for me. And I've always wanted to live in New York. So I applied to the program and I got in, and there I went off to New York. So that was September 2006.
Wow. And then after that, of course, you were working in restaurants.
Oh, sorry, 2008. My bad. 2008, my bad.
Oh, actually, so yeah, 2008. So that was around about, so you ended up going into the hospitality industry. Were you graduating and getting in when there was, of course, the global crash happened just after 2008, didn't it? Was that when you were starting your career in hospitality?
Yeah, basically, and so, but at the time, I didn't really feel that. I was in my early 20s, I didn't own anything.
So you had nothing to lose.
I had nothing to lose,
Yeah.
But I knew that there was a lot of potential and a lot of change happening even in New York. The Standard High Line wasn't even built yet. And so I actually went and worked for Lululemon while I was in school. I stayed actually working for the company because they transferred me they had 2 locations just opening in New York City.
Oh, wow. Yep.
So I stayed working for the company because I felt like a sense of community and tribe that I really wanted to keep in contact with. And plus we were able to take free yoga classes, go take classes around the city. So I was able to get to know the communities also, not only within the store, but also within the studios, which helped me be connected to like more artsy people and people that were in fitness and dance. And so I got to build my community very quickly while I was in school. But then I was ready to take on like a more serious hospitality job. So I applied to be a server at the Standard Hotel in New York City in April 2009, which like it was still in construction. They were hiring people like in a little off-site office because it wasn't even built yet.
Oh, wow.
But the minute I started working for that company, I was like, okay, this is where I want to be. They were creating this innovative, incredible hotel, in the meatpacking district in New York City. And Andre Balaz is an incredible hotelier and very innovative person. And when he came to talk to us about, welcome to the team, I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. It just brought chills through my body, and I was just so excited at that moment. And, then later on I got a chance to be in management there. That was about a year later. So, that's kind of where it all started in New York.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. So, I mean, I've got to say though, the hospitality industry, that must be pretty competitive, especially if you're at that level of working with these major hoteliers, major brands. Did you ever feel like it was competitive? Like dance was competitive? And why did that not bother you?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate that like most of the times like I've gotten job opportunities just through my networking connections. Mm-hmm. I've met someone and made an impression on them or showed them the hard work and dedication that I can put into my job. And so I've been very lucky that, one thing's ending, something else starts based on a connection that I've already have with someone, whether we were working together many years before and then they started something else and they're like, I loved working with you. Would you come work for me again? So that's been the whole path through my career. I think it's very hard to blind apply to jobs. Mm-hmm. And that's why networking and is super important, keeping close to the people that you're connected with. I didn't feel that sense of competitiveness. I always just put my heart and soul into it. I was always really dedicated to my management team, to ownership, and always dedicated to learning. So I'd like to be, the first one there, last one to leave. It's the same thing in dance. It's like you got to be there from start to finish. You can't like leave halfway. And I always wanted to do a good job. I think I got that from my father. He was very dedicated professional his whole life, very thorough with everything he did. And that always, was a driving factor anytime I was in business.
Right.
So,
it rubbed off on you. And what about with networking? It's not everybody finds that an easy thing to do. Like, how do you make it natural and how do you keep those connections that people, aside from making a good impression? Because I think a lot of people do work hard and put in effort, but then maybe they're too shy or they feel like, oh, I can't follow up with that person because it might annoy them or they're too busy or they're too big. Or how do you nurture your connections when you're networking?
I think just try to be genuine. A lot of times if you're out at an event or anywhere, like how are you? How was your weekend? Oh my God, I love your t-shirt. Like, where'd you get that from? Oh my God, where have you traveled recently? Oh my God, I've been there too. And just like finding genuine connection, like not always like selling yourself, but about like, you can connect with people over something as small as I went to this restaurant recently and I loved it. Have you been there? Oh my God, this is so delicious, you know?
Yeah.
Just being genuine and
not
because I
worrying.
like people and not worrying if it's going to lead to a business connection.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it might years later, you know? And so I'm not always worried about like, it's never hustling.
Yes.
It's really about connecting.
I suppose that's it. A lot of people, when they network, they think that initial meeting has to lead to something straight away, but it's more about, you don't want to work with someone you don't like anyway. So it's kind of like, yeah, we got along. And then who knows where that leads down the track. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, a lot of relationships I've had with people, let's say even here in LA where we did an event together, I worked with their company like 2 years ago. And then I'm getting an email 2 years later, like, hey, we're starting a new project. You know, you've come up, I've seen what you've been doing. Like, would you come meet with us? And you're like, okay, like it's so super random, but it has to do with like making good first impressions. And, you know, every time you have an event or get an opportunity to work with someone, like giving it your all, no matter how small or big the event is, you know, and making an impression that you can do the job well.
What if someone was wanting to break into hospitality? What tips would you give them?
I think that you have to learn every position. So it's not glamorous at the beginning. And, you know, actually when I was first managing the Standard, they gave me like the overnight shifts. So and, you know, I'm like a 5'2", you know, 125 pounds, small girl. You know, I consider myself a small person, but they wanted me to do the overnight shift because that was the shitty shifts, which is fine, you know. But basically I would come on at 8 p.m. and work till 4 or 5 in the morning. And in Meatpacking District in New York City at 3 and 4 in the morning, there's a lot of interesting people that come out. So luckily I had security guards with me, but I ended up learning how to handle serious situations because, you know, what happens between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. is usually not good.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I've done, you know, the hard shifts, and whether it was working as a busser, working as a host, working as all these positions, like I learned everything from the ground up. I didn't come in like, oh, I'm going to be a manager. Like I understand operations and now can be on the creative side of it because I've done every position. I know what it's like to clean up tables. I know what it's like to mop the floor. I know what it's like to like work a 14-hour day on your feet and be absolutely exhausted the next day and have to get up in 3 hours because then they scheduled you for a brunch shift the next day.
Oh my gosh.
So that's the kind of thing that I would say just be okay with, you know, putting in the time and dedication and learning every position so that you can speak to it authentically. Because if you can't do it yourself, then you can't tell someone else to do it.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
So
that makes a lot of sense. And I think that
patience.
applies
So-
to, oh yeah.
Yeah, just having patience, you know. You get pushed a lot by guests, you know. Guests because they can feel entitled because you're serving them food and they can talk down to you a lot.
Yeah.
So just having a lot of patience with people and no matter what they say, still trying to remedy situations and keeping a smile on your face. So.
Wow. Yeah, actually that would be a hard thing because you do notice, I mean, everyone's been out for dinner with that person who's just a little bit of an a-hole to the people that are serving food and having that entitled attitude. So yeah, I always wonder that.
It's true.
So obviously your attitude, like working hard and going the extra mile, paid off and got you the job with the team behind Hakkasan and bringing Hakkasan to America at the Fontainebleau. Tell us about that story when you met the managers.
So we were at the Standard Hotel. I was managing one night and I got a chit, which basically is that little piece of paper that comes from the POS system that tells if there's a VIP or an allergy or whatever it is. And I got this chit and it said, people that are on the board of the directors of the Fontainebleau are sitting at, you know, table 26. Yeah. I grabbed 4 glasses and a bottle of bubbles and headed the table and put the glasses in front of them and say, you know, welcome to the Standard. We just opened, you know, I'm glad to have you guys here in New York. And here's my card. If there's anything I can get you this evening, please let me know and hope you enjoy. And poured out their glasses of champagne. And then, you know, halfway through their meal, they called me back over and said, you know, everything's been so fantastic. Thank you for your hospitality. And by the way, we're so impressed with how you came over and greeted us. And are you looking for a job or would be interested in moving to Miami? And I was like, I mean, I don't know, but I was very flattered. Thank you so much. That's so kind. I'll take your card and, you know, I'll email you my resume and, you know, maybe we'll see if it's a good fit. I'm always open to it. So they end up emailing me back and invited me down to Miami to have an interview. And the Fontainebleau Hotel was like absolutely incredible. It was something like a hotel I hadn't experienced something that really felt like a true gigantic resort, but on the beach. It's almost like if you took a Vegas hotel but put it on the beach, where you have multiple clubs, multiple restaurants, multiple different towers, and huge beachfront club property. I mean, it was really incredible. And I said, I can really see myself working here, staring out of that crystal blue water every day.
Life would be so tough here. Oh,
I know.
And
and after being in New York for a little over 2 years, I was just like, okay, maybe ready for a change. So I took the leap.
Wow.
And we just didn't look back. So
yeah. I mean, it seems like it would be an easy decision to go move to Miami, but it's not always easy to take those leaps, as good an opportunity as they are. I mean, have you always been someone that's just said yes in general and just gone for it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think you have to. There's nothing to be afraid of, unless you're in harm's way or hurting someone else. Like, why not do it, And I was young and single and I was ready to go.
Yeah. So when did you decide to start Create Hospitality? Because, I mean, of course, you ended up back in Los Angeles and you were working at some great restaurants here. Did Create Hospitality come before or after moving back to Los Angeles?
Well, Create Hospitality actually came about. I'd been in Miami for a little over a year, and then I actually moved back to New York to deal with some family things. And so I was back in New York, and I was actually doing some private catering. I'd always been in food and cooked food and been passionate about that, but it was always like very on the side. But I had an opportunity to work with a few kind of, I guess, celebrity kind of people in the city and do some small retreats and where I was cooking for a company or a group of people in the Hamptons. And so when I was like creating an invoice, I was like, I guess I got to have a name. It can't just be me. So let me just make up a name. And I liked Create because it had eat in the middle, EAT. And so it was like Create. I was just trying to be something silly. And like, of course, my first iterations of my logo are hilarious when I look back at it now. I was like, I was making it on Microsoft Word, like drawing a logo.
You were
like,
yourself?
Yeah, I was just like, I didn't know at the time. I didn't have a logo program or couldn't pay a designer.
Actually, and do you know what? Things like Canva and Fiverr have made it so affordable to create your own logo. But now, then it was like, oh gosh, I remember ages ago paying like $450 to a friend to knock up a logo for me.
Yeah, and it wasn't that serious for me at the time. I was just trying to make my invoice look more official because I liked everything to be done right,
Yeah.
It wasn't like an LLC at the time or anything serious, but I was like, I wanted to be Create. And then, later I wanted to be Create Hospitality because I wanted to continue to have it be an umbrella so it could be lots of different things, and so that my business could cover whether it was, private catering or if it was consulting or if it was management or events, or I just wanted to have an umbrella so it'd be a little bit broad, but all things under hospitality.
Right, which also incorporates YogaCo as well, which is yoga retreats, and you have a partner in Bali and Indonesia.
My best friend from college who we danced together, she actually took the track of really taking dance and fitness to a whole nother level. She actually did go to New York City and we were there at similar times, but she ended up, dancing professionally and working in companies, and then later started working for Tracy Anderson, who's a fitness guru in New York City, and she was one of her first trainers in New York. Her name is Jolie Manza. And then after doing that for 8 or 9 years, she decided to go to Bali and move there actually to start doing yoga teacher training.
Wow, yeah.
So we came together, and because I'd, done a little bit of branding and marketing, creative, and the business side is my comfortable spot, is my comfort zone. And she's really the art and really the trainer and the teacher. So we came together and created YogaCo. So we wanted to create an international yoga company that specialized in teacher trainings and retreats. So we have in Australia, we have retreats in Byron Bay and in Sydney, and we do teacher trainings there as well.
Yeah.
We in Bali, in the Maldives, in Montana, and in Mexico.
Oh my gosh, just basically everywhere you want to go and do yoga and chill out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So they do about 15 retreats a year and about 4 to 5 teacher trainings a year. Mm-hmm. So it's great because YogaCo is a certified school. We're not just a company. So we're accredited by Yoga Alliance, so we can actually certify people under our own curriculum.
Yeah.
And so we were able to, graduate over 100 teachers a year.
That's amazing. I don't even know how you have time to do all of this. I thought you were having a crazy busy life as it was just setting up restaurants, but then also having this other business on the side. What do you do for your own self-care?
I'm very lucky that I love spinning. And what's great about spinning is that is I have a friend who works for Peloton actually in New York City, and she was able to get me, interested in their bikes and their method about having a bike in your house. So I get to ride every morning or every night when I'm in the mood, and get to use that as kind of my outlet for the day, because I can hop on the bike right when I get up. I don't have to drive anywhere, and get a great sweaty 45-minute workout, do a mat class afterwards or an abs workout, and then be done for the day. So that's been my kind of my relief recently, the past kind of 6 months.
Yeah, as you've been preparing to launch Pier House and Cartolina in Venice, which that's up and running.
Yeah,
so you can probably take a load off now. But how do you handle the build up to something when it's all go, 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 go? And then do you feel like you play catch up with yourself, and you catch up on sleep, and you catch up on meditating and whatever else that you do? Or is all of that stuff that you're able to maintain while you're in the thick of the chaos of pulling together a project?
I think it's half and half. Luckily, it's never just me. I always work with a team. Luckily, I have a great assistant and a great team that we always work together with. So it's not just me. And I really, being a good director is about, leading people and pushing them to pull together the product or whatever material you need from them and make it the best. So you're working collectively on a project. So it's not just me. But really time management and using programs. There's a great program called Monday.com, and it keeps you really, really organized. It's kind of like a project management tool. So things like that, like systems and software, are something I rely on, and keeping really organized and planning my week and making sure that we're using our time efficiently and effectively. Mm-hmm. And then as far as, work-life balance, whether it's if I get to walk my dog go to the beach and walk him for 30 minutes at night before I re-pick up my work, then I will. So I try to, even if it's 30 minutes to go take a walk and then come back. Even if I work 4 more hours and I'm up till 10 at night, I try to give myself that 30 minutes to be outside, see the sunset, do something, and like I said, and recently the Peloton bike has really saved me, because I can take a 30-minute class, get really sweaty, and go right back to my computer 5 feet away.
Right.
So,
But
then on the weekends, try and enjoy time with my partner, whether just walking around Venice or taking a bike ride or going to eat at a restaurant. Those are the things that make me really happy.
Yeah, yeah.
So I try to include that as well weekly.
Do you find you're able to switch off when you have those moments, or is your head always sort of spinning? You're always like, ooh.
Usually spinning. Yeah. Right. But still, I'm not. But I try to either not bring my phone with me. Mm-hmm. So even if I'm making mental checklists and thinking about things, I'm still trying to disconnect a little bit.
Yeah, and be in the moment. And you like to use Headspace app as well. So you like to meditate.
I do. It's something I have an alarm on my phone. So it goes to at 9 a.m. in the morning, or 8 a.m. When I get up, I try to remember to do that. So I hope, and now that the restaurants are open, it's been easier.
Yeah, you do now. You have a little bit more time, I guess. So just going back to, you said that you had a family emergency that took you away from Miami. Mm-hmm. Was that a time in your life where you had to recalibrate? Because it seems that, you just started at the Fontainebleau, and that was probably somewhere that you saw as being a home for a long time.
I did.
And those things do happen to us in life. Our ducks are in a row and we're like, yes. And then there are these outside factors, whether it's friends or family or economy or whatever. Mm-hmm. Create Hospitality probably would never have happened if you hadn't been taken away from the Fontainebleau. Do you look at that time, it probably didn't feel like it. Mm-hmm. Looking back, it's probably like, okay, this was all meant to be. Mm-hmm. But at the time, was it jarring to have to stop and go back to be with your family?
Yeah, my dad got diagnosed with cancer. My parents were both living in Boulder at the time, actually. But the best hospital for the kind of cancer that he had, which is leukemia, was a hospital in New York. So they basically dropped everything, and within 2 or 3 days actually went to New York. And basically I got the call, and was like, I told my boss that day, it was like, I'm sorry, I have to leave, I have to go be with my father. He was everything to me, super, super close to my parents. And so, I basically went online. It's all happened literally in one day. Wow. I got the call. I, decided that I needed to leave. I told my boss I was going to leave, and then started looking online for jobs, because I was like, I'll take any job. And luckily I found a job as another management position, an AGM at a Japanese restaurant in the city. And I was like, whatever, as long as I have a little bit of work to keep me a little sane, then it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Nothing else mattered besides him.
Yeah.
So spending time with him, being able to be with him while he was in the hospital, and being close by, because those moments were, I'll never get back. you know? But after he passed, which was 2 years later, and I was in New York until he passed, and then we're originally from LA, so my mom and my sister was here, and so we all moved back to LA to kind of start over.
Yeah,
we just didn't want to stay in New York.
I bet.
And 2 years later, I didn't really want to go back to Miami, and so we decided to come back to where we were all from.
Wow.
Yeah.
And pick it up. Gee, wow, that must have been. Yeah, I'm sorry, that must have been a really tough time, but. Yeah, wow, that led you back to here.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you had to, I mean, I suppose you had a lot of experience and you had a great resume. So was it easy to get into things in Los Angeles?
It took a little bit of time. Actually, I was applying for jobs for a while, and I had a few kind of like semi-permanent jobs where I knew it wasn't like the one, but I was just, again, trying to make some money, get myself back in LA. And again, I had no network here. I had been gone for so long. I started reconnecting with people. And again, I got this job at Hinoki the Bird through a friend who was a chef working at another one of the restaurants of their group. And they said, hey, I think they're looking for a manager. And I was like, okay, great. And I wasn't actually sure if I wanted to go back into management. I had been doing a lot of different things, more creative. And I was like, okay, back on the floor, 12 hours a day.
Oh my
gosh. Oh God. Okay. But I was like, I got to do this. I need to get my feet wet again and kind of see what this is going to lead to. So I went and had the interview, and I loved the general manager. I mean, he just made me want to work there. And so we vibed, we connected right away. And I was like, okay, this is it. And so then started my, career here in LA. And so I was with them for 2.5 years and went from being a manager to being the events director with them.
That's amazing. How did you cope with, I guess, I mean, is there a level of having to swallow your pride where you're like, oh, I've got to go back and start again in management and be 12 hours a day and back on the floor and prove myself again, when actually, don't you see I have this amazing resume? Like was there any point where you sort of had to talk to yourself and go like, oh, get over it, let's just do it? Or
no, because it's always an opportunity to learn.
Right.
And, you're never the top. You're never the best. You are always learning in this business. There's so much to continue to learn and grow.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, again, working with this general manager, he had a lot of things to teach me, and I was excited to learn more. So, it's just like growing and learning, and that's what keeps me excited and engaged.
That makes a lot of sense. And again, it's like nothing is wasted. You do your dance career, and then that helps you with your hospitality, and everything kind of, in the end, you look back and go, this all makes sense. What sort of takeaways have you got? It sounds like you've worked with some great managers, and now you yourself are a fantastic, CEO of your company, and you have to pull together a massive team of people to get projects up off the ground. Like with Pier House and Cartolina, they were both 2 restaurants in Venice, but they took over the space of 3 different businesses, and it's a huge location, and there's a lot of moving parts. What point did you go, hey, I'm actually a really good manager? Or were there challenges that you learned through watching other people and how to pull together all of these moving parts? Or was it really just being able to dance?
I think a little bit of both. But I think being a good manager, and I've been in management for many years now, is really having integrity around your word and also in your actions, leading by example, really showing the team that you care, being a good listener, all those things, and making genuine connection with everybody. Because when you tell them like, hi, how are you? How's your mom today? What's going on? When you engage with them and connect with them, like, they work harder for you. And when you give them an opportunity to take ownership over the business, whether it's like giving them a lot of education and so giving them the tools, then when they feel prepared to either go out on the floor or perform their task, they feel like they're doing it with confidence. And then they're really not only working for you, but working for the business. Like, they're a part of it versus it just being a job. That's the difference. So when you create culture in the restaurant or any business, then people are connected. And then, like I said, they're taking ownership over it. So I think that's what you have to create in everywhere that you go. So even with the Pier House, we had to hire like 120 something people for the front of house because we had 2 operations to run. And we knew there was going to be about 25% drop off. So we had to, overhire. So we actually took them to a hotel here in Marina del Rey, set them up conference style with like a presentation and, in rows with desks, and, give them a 2-week, training to give them all the materials and all the information they needed to make them really feel empowered to go out on the floor. Like they were going to be experts, So like we say, you're not just servers, you're not just hosts, but you're really the directors of first impressions.
Oh, I like that.
I'm not at the table explaining the concept. You are. You greet the table, and whatever you say, how you explain the dishes, and people ask, oh, who's the owner? Like all your verbiage, they're your, your eyes and ears on the floor. They're really the ones who get to touch the people and touch the tables. So the more information you give them, the more that you make them feel empowered, the better your restaurant or business is going to run, Yep. So they're really the key holders for the business. And so that's what we try to tell them the entire time. So we did, a week of, sharing the history about the location and what's the why, and about the branding and about the ownership and the whole concept. We gave them, training on all the beverages and liquor and the beer and the wine, and really, and steps of service. So really took a really deep dive into giving them every piece of information we could think of so they would really feel good walking into opening day.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think it really shows, because I must admit, a full disclosure, I had a brunch with some girlfriends. It got a little wild at Pier House on Sunday. It was pretty awesome. I ended up at a Korean day spa afterwards. So, that's a good brunch. But I blame the cocktails. There are really good cocktails on the menu. They're very strong, and they're actually only $12 each, which is probably as cheap as you'll get for cocktails in Venice.
Yeah. But it was designed that way. We wanted you to enjoy more than one.
Right. Okay. So. Yeah. Thanks for that. My head really thanked you on Monday morning. And actually, you have pulled in like local, people. Like, is it Tipplings that you have that make the cordials that are the base for a lot of your cocktails?
Yeah.
Those guys. I mean, they're very new. How did you find them? And then what made you want to take a bet on them?
Yeah. So my friend Vitas, who actually I met at Burning Man, who was at my camp the first year, very, very dear friend of ours, and we hang out, weekly. And he always has these like cordial and concoctions and probiotics and all these very cool things he's always making, because when we go to the beach or we're at Burning Man or wherever we are, you always want to have something delicious and refreshing with really clean ingredients when you're making a cocktail. And for the most part, cocktail mixers are gross, so unless I'm putting it with, like sparkling water or something simple, like, you always want a little something. And so he happens to make this ginger cordial that's fresh ginger, honey, lemon, and spices. And he brews it here in Venice, and it's my favorite thing. All you need to do is add a little soda water and either tequila or vodka or whatever kind of mule you want to make. You can make a buck, you can make a Moscow mule, you can make anything. And we use it in our cocktails at the Pier House. We had this great drink called the amoxicillin, which is with El Silencio mezcal, pineapple juice, ginger cordial, a lemon, a little bit of firewater.
It's very good for you. It is very good for you.
Yeah. So those are the things we want to partner with people that we have relationships with, that we care about, help them grow their business and their network, and they have great products, so we might as well use it.
Yeah,
so.
Right. And again, it goes back to your networking, building the relationships, and I guess that builds depth, doesn't it? At the end of the day,
100%. Because then then you are building community, and then he gets to come in with his friend and say that, oh, hey, we're using the ginger cordial on the cocktail list, and then he spreads with his friends, versus being like, we did everything ourselves. And no, if you're exclusive and you have everything to yourself, then like you don't spread the word. But if you include a lot of people in this opening and work with a lot of people and networks, and the products you use and the vendors, and you collaborate, then like they're going to spread it to their network. So it's going to be and they're going to feel like they have a piece of it.
Right. And it makes more people invested. Yeah. Which is fantastic. And it really does have that feel. It's a great space.
Yeah.
It's friendly, but then it's got the high-end food that you want, but at a good price. Oh, I'm so excited for the future of it.
We really want to just to create a hub for the community and have it to be a place where they can come any time of day for any occasion and enjoy.
Oh, awesome. Well, I think that's definitely where it's at. I mean, I'm pretty much set on having a standing reservation every Sunday, though maybe I might have to move it to Saturday so I can have my Sunday to recover. Or just drink.
I'm going to join you, and then we'll go to the Korean spa
Just
after.
the Korean spa afterwards. Yeah. It's a new thing, ladies who brunch and then spa.
Yeah, the Pier House and Korean spa.
Anyone can join. Oh, that's so amazing. Thank you so much, Lauren. I want to say, is there... Oh, what's a good takeaway? What would you say? I mean, you're a, I don't want to say you're a badass businesswoman. I mean, I guess you are. But what would you say are the most important things for someone who is wanting to excel with their business?
I think it's really about allowing yourself to travel and experience things, because every time you do that, you come back feeling inspired. So you have to take the time to Go travel the world, go eat other places. Like even if it's small trips, like even like when I traveled to Nashville recently, I was like, oh my God, this city's amazing. And I went to this restaurant. I'm like, this is sick, you know? So it spent 2 days taking the time out of my crazy schedule to go explore, to go meet people, to network, to connect, to get inspired by things. So whether it's a short trip or a long trip, or even dining out in LA or whatever it is, like get out and travel, explore, allow yourself the time to just take in new information. And if you're only in the grind, then you're not like, you know, receptive to new information. So I'd say that like my travels are something that really inspire me and continue to be the thing that grows my brand.
That is really wise advice. Amazing. Thank you so much,
me.
Lauren. Thank you for your time. This has been super inspiring.
I love it. Thank you for having me.
Lauren Koeppe of Create Hospitality. Thank you, beautiful.